So while we're waiting for Yonit to sit down, show of hands, who does not know what an accelerator is? Wow. Okay, so we can skip Accelerator 101 and dive right in. So I would ask all of the panelists to just introduce yourself and in 20 seconds just explain how you came to be involved in the accelerator, but let's not go into the accelerator model yet, just who you are and how you came to be involved in this part of the world.
Thank you. So I'm Yonit Soloducho. I'm part of the Microsoft Accelerator. We have seven accelerators worldwide. I'm in charge of the corporate access program, and I've been in Microsoft for 2.5 years. But actually, my passion to edutech started way a long time ago. My parents have a company in edutech that focuses on the LATAM market, so I was basically born and raised with edutech passion. So that's my background.
Hi, Amir. I was the founder of the first Microsoft Accelerator. Now, as Yonit said, we have 7 of them. We accelerated more than 600 companies that raised nearly $3 billion in funding at an average of about $5 million each. 45 exits and 3 IPOs. I'm now running the operations and marketing worldwide.
Hey everyone, thank you for inviting me. So my name is Tommy Barav, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Ecosystem at MassChallenge Israel. MassChallenge is a global accelerator, considered to be the most startup-friendly accelerator in the world. We're also the largest one. So far we have more than 1,200 entrepreneurs in our community. They raised more than $2 billion and they created more than 6,000 jobs. So it's really the biggest, we believe it's the biggest community, startup community in the world. And we also have 5 locations, one in Boston, one in Switzerland, Mexico City, Lausanne, and in Jerusalem as well from last year. We are accelerating 52 startups, and I will talk about it shortly.
Hello everyone, Hakan Satiroglu from Boston, Massachusetts, representing LearnLaunch. I think one of the first, second accelerators focused on education technology. And the reason I got into it, I've been an education technology entrepreneur since the year 2000, before we started referring to this as EdTech. That led us to start about 5 years ago, LearnLaunch, that actually not only an accelerator, it's a co-working space in events, as well as incubation and other media-related elements.
Okay, thanks all. So unlike VC or private equity, I don't think anyone can question the purity of an accelerator, why you exist, why you should exist. I don't think there's any controversy about that at all. But it is clear that there's different ways to approach the accelerator model. And I think on this panel, we do have a couple of things that distinguish all of you, and I think we'll try and draw those out a little bit as we talk. Perhaps there are some startups in the audience who are thinking about whether or not they want to go through an accelerator route, and maybe they could leave with a little more knowledge about some of the questions that they should be thinking about. So let's start there, and then ultimately I'd like to end up talking a little more about Israel and how the accelerator model works here and how that might be different, and and also education as well, the education sector. So let's start with Microsoft. My understanding is this is housed within the corporation Microsoft, which is a for-profit entity, and my understanding is that you guys don't take any equity. So what's in it for Microsoft? Why does Microsoft why is Microsoft in the acceleration business?
We take your soul. No.
I'd rather
So-
give you equity.
Yeah. So we don't take equity. What is there for us? So we take the best entrepreneurs and the best startups. Most of them are at the Series A stage. So that means that we are partnering with the best potential startups that will become our enterprise partners in 5 years or 6 years from now as they grow to be enterprises. So that's our biggest benefit. We're just partnering now with the next set of enterprises. So that's the biggest thing. We also get a lot of product feedback. Microsoft has moved to a services model, a cloud model, where we launch a lot of new features as we progress our development. And startups are more than love to take that and challenge us and say, it's working, it's not working, this is how I'm using it. And that feedback is very fast, and it's helped us to be faster and innovate faster. Last thing is we have a good tap on the pulse of innovation. What is trending around the world? What type of technologies? What type of sectors? What type of solutions? And that's a great vehicle for us, again, to innovate faster, to know what's out there, and to partner with the best.
And Yonit, can you describe the service that you provide? Because although you work together, you're focused on a very distinct service, correct?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for the corporate access program, which basically connects startups with Microsoft partners. So we are basically we feel the missing link to help these startups to be successful. So we connect them to Microsoft partners, and as Amir mentioned, we help them with the go-to-market efforts and help them reach their markets worldwide. We have the resources put in place from an acceleration perspective, but also from a product and service perspective. So this is what I focus on.
Okay, so Tommy, I'm going to ask a provocative question. I understand you also don't take equity. You're a nonprofit, you get funding from a variety of different sources. So if I'm a startup and I come to you and I say, hey, I just met with Amir and Yonit, and I'm thinking about doing a deal with them, and they don't take equity, and I really like that, but you don't take equity. How do you sell against these guys? Why should they go with you as opposed to Amir and Yonit?
So I'm not, because it really depends. First, we are dealing with different stages. They are more advanced. They are dealing with Microsoft is dealing with more advanced startups, round A, if I'm not mistaken. And we are dealing with early stage startups. So pre-seed, seed, from bootstrap to seed. And because we really like to deal with early stage, we can give a tremendous value to early stage startups, like access. If I can talk a bit about the model. So as you know, establishing a startup is really challenging. And what we do at MassChallenge, we're actually democratizing access. So meaning that we want to put the entrepreneur in the middle of the ecosystem. For example, in Israel, so we have amazing partners like multinationals, government, including JDA, including IBM. We have service providers like HFN and other partners that we're working here in Israel, and we are connecting them to the entrepreneurs in our accelerator, and they're getting their future customers. They're getting access to new technology, and they're getting access to new markets because we have 5 locations worldwide, and by 2020 we're going to be in 20 different locations. So we really benefit with early stage startups, and I think the main benefit of MassChallenge is recognition, because we consider to be the biggest. We have 52 startups a year. In one cohort, in one class, you will find 52 startups, a community of 52 startups, meaning more than 150 different entrepreneurs from different backgrounds, varieties, sectors. We have 40% of all the startups are women-led startups, so we have a great focus on female entrepreneurs. And so you can gain a lot of access to the startups as well by being inspired by the startup in your community.
Hakan, can you describe how you differ from these guys? And I know one area is you do get compensated through equity, which is not a bad word. But explain, if I'm a startup and I'm, thinking about these guys and there's a stage difference between your accelerators. What stage do you focus on relative to what you just heard from Amir and Tommy? And then, how do you think about, services in exchange for equity, and what are the benefits of your model?
Sure. Again, when we started, and we still are, the very only EdTech focused. So a startup, if they want the direct, access to the EdTech market, I think we're still one of the few choices that is going to give them what they need. When we started, as one of the 5 co-founders, my dream was always like, all right, let's create an environment that, as an entrepreneur, I didn't have a lot of access or I didn't know a lot of things. What is the best model? And, we literally looked around. There was Y Combinator, there was Techstars, and we replicated their model initially, which was about 6% equity. It was a 3-month plus program with a demo day. Since within the last 4 or 5 years, we now have different programs where it may be a month program where we may take, a lot less equity, which may be, I think, as low as 2%. So we're adjusting things based on, right now we're going after later stage companies because we don't think that they need all 3 months of how to sell to the market or what the go-to-market strategies could be, but they may need direct access to specific angels. And, at least 4 of the 5 co-founders are angel investors themselves. So being there with us gives them tremendous, help. And we do invest in these companies additional to our accelerator funds. And so that makes a big difference from that angle. And, some of it is location. Most important thing is for the startups to realize what is it they need the most. Once they figure out what they may need the most, and then they can just say, so at least one startup that I'm also personally involved, they first, went to the MassChallenge program in Boston. They took anything and everything they can get from their access and their people, and then they came to LearnLaunch Accelerator as well. And with, now I know startups that's been part of at least half a dozen programs. Some take equity, some don't. And there's different systems are coming to the scene, especially in the education sector. There's a lot of non-for-profits going into that. Corporations, I just heard about AT&T's program. They're kind of getting into this specific education and education technology focused environments. So a little bit of it is startups deciding what they need the most and then seek the elements accordingly. There's benefits in pretty much in all of those.
So do you feel, and this is a question to the 3 of you, do you feel like you can be an effective accelerator if you're not hyper-focused on a particular vertical like LearnLaunch is?
Absolutely. I think so. From a point of view of the entrepreneur, this diversity, this variety, I think we have many common challenges between EdTech companies to FinTech companies and to automotive companies. 3 industries that are booming right now, being transformed dramatically from one point to another. And there is a gap. There is a gap in the market of a lot of demands to new technologies, still we're seeing a lot of challenges. And I think that by actually keeping them together, keeping a variety of startups in one room, we can gain a lot, by learning from different vectors and different challenges. And because how one startup gain access to the automotive market, which is also very challenging, you can learn a lot about the EdTech sector. So I think there are a lot of challenges and some common challenges. And this is why I feel that by being sector agnostic, by letting startups to gain access to different, multi-disciplines and different access to different partners, you can get a lot of resources.
That's a great point. I just want to add, in the U.S., where we have a variety of EdTech companies at different stages, including some multi-billion-dollar companies, every once in a while you have a vacancy at the top in the C-suite, in the CEO suite, and everybody sits around, thinking and casting bets about whether or not the CEO will be replaced by somebody from the industry or outside the industry. And I think there's a growing trend to try and bring in talent from outside the industry and potentially, from the technology industry, because there's a recognition that in order to take some of these companies to the next level, you can't just rely on the learnings from the education sector, which is relatively narrow. But there's so much to be learned from executives who have had experience in other fields, maybe grew up in Silicon Valley, much more sophisticated in terms of marketing, et cetera. SaaS is a big topic as well. So if you're truly trying to build a SaaS business, does it make sense to put in place a CEO, a publishing executive, or somebody who ran a information service company that had a SaaS model? So I see that. How do you answer that? Is that a debatable point for you, or?
It is. I mean, with all due respect, it's like, you bring the focus, because when you look at our mentors, I'm sure most of our mentors will overlap in Boston with the MassChallenge mentors. So you do have access to that, and you also know it doesn't always work bringing people from outside industry into a fairly closed industry like education has been. I always recommended that we need to start going more. I even start thinking that we should start having more specific K-12 accelerators or higher ed accelerators, because after a while, it's all comes down to, and I don't think how much of this we've done, but you need to building the pipelines. So I think the roles of accelerators is going to start morphing more. When you come to our accelerator, can I, give you 50 school districts that's going to be ready to essentially, start testing your products. And I see kind of as we learn, we're moving towards that kind of a level of access, which becomes harder and harder as you're in the multiple disciplines. Because other than that, you are learning the game, you're learning the access, capital access. So I think we need to, start seeing how deeper can we get these groups into that components of, because at the end of the day, you need to prove that your system works, and then you need to get quickly to sales. So I think we're in a little bit more advantageous position being in a very focused area.
So let's talk a minute about Israel. How in the world did you convince Microsoft to open up the first Microsoft Accelerator in Israel? And it's obviously been successful because you've expanded to other countries as well.
So we did it the Israeli way. They said no, and we did it despite that. So, yeah. So, yeah.
Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
No, we actually asked for permission, but we didn't got it. So, so we just went ahead and did it anyway. And I think that, it's always about proving the early success of the model. Once the company showed the tremendous value that we can deliver through that vehicle of Accelerator, that was the proof point that this model can scale and we can take it to other countries. And why Israel is because all of the regular startup nation type of characteristics. It's the can-do mentality. It's the concentration of the industry, of a lot of people that are passionate about entrepreneurship. It's a combination of culture that is encouraging you to take risks and to take big bets. And it's also a lot of VC and liquidity in the market that can raise the different stages of funding. And the secret component is also a lot of mentorship that you get from the veterans in the industry and a lot of serial entrepreneurs that will give the advice in a meaningful way. So not just, office hours or a lecture or something like that, but real mentorship that is ongoing, that is with you throughout the stages as you develop your business. And I think that was creating the factors of success on the early accelerator. We just took those components that help us achieve that from Microsoft and took it to other markets with the same logic. So that's why Israel, or why Microsoft in Israel.
Got it. So, Tommy, I'll start with you. Give us a success story. If it's in education, great, but if that's not, the one you want to talk about, feel free to venture somewhere else.
Great. So, the last year we had 4 EdTech startups, MassChallenge. One of them actually, some of them might know them, Keepers. So Keepers actually, they fight what I believe is a very big problem. All the startups MassChallenge kind of has this narrative of big problems, but they have a significant big problem, cyberbullying. They actually tackle this problem by tracking different messages that can be sent or received on the child's smartphone. So the parents can track his smartphone, and like a cybersecurity system, it will alert when there is a fault message in order to prevent cyberbullying. And they got to MassChallenge with an idea, with this idea of creating this system. During the time they developed the app, we gave them office space, and we gave them a lot of access to Jerusalem and to the city itself, so they can do POCs and pilots and tests on different schools. And they are keeping surprising us, like with a lot of. They won a lot of competitions and they raised money, and we are keep giving them access to different schools and different resources worldwide. And really, the target here now is to give them access to Boston and the schools there. Another one, actually, one company that won the competition last year. So the MassChallenge model is it's a competition-based model. So by the end of the program, we have like our Oscar awards. We have a competition with our top 10, and they can win cash prizes. It's like a very big event, which actually gives them recognition, and it's like a signal to the market that this startup is our high-impact, high-potential startups. Stellar Nova actually develops a novel educational toy line for girls. As you know, 47% of the workforce actually is women, or represents 47%, but they actually represent 25% of like all the science, technology, engineers, and other sciences professionals. So what they want to do, they actually want to inspire girls to get into mathematics and science technologies.
Okay. So it sounds like you have 2 others that you could talk about, but let's, in the interest of time, we have 2 minutes, so 1 minute for you and 1 minute for you.
We have a great education startup out of London, Accelerator. Same model as our Accelerator here in Tel Aviv. We're a worldwide program. It's called Firefly Learning. They're a great case of how you create a collaboration layer between the teacher, the student, and the parents in one platform, so everybody can track the progress of the student, support him, and also teach him in the same manner as it been taught in the class also when you're coming back and help him at home. The company raised more than $5.6 million. They just been chosen last week of the Disrupt 100 in that list. We help them, of course, in the technology side. It's a cloud platform running on our cloud, so that's type of support. We also help them kind of figure out what do they need to do as a company to scale very fast and go to market with us. So our brand brings them the credibility that they need to go to the school system, go to the educational system, not just as a small startup out of London, but also with the back of a big corporation behind them.
Thank you.
I think the real success for me is that we're accelerating now the fact that those kind of clusters are coming together. The fact that now we're here, I came from Boston, a lot of people traveling, and we start making the connections. There's always going to be countless companies that we can talk about, but these guys hearing about LearnLaunch for the first time, us meeting together, and then we're taking potentially these gatherings. I mean, when we first started the LearnLaunch conference, we had 400 or 500 people 5 years ago. Now we had 1,200 people. So I can see how the EdTech cluster in Israel is just going to only grow. We're going to start seeing ways like companies probably in 3-5 years. And we're going to start seeing them more in the US as it's probably the biggest market. So to me, the real success is now the gathering. So congratulations to Yaki and team, and to you, just having the vision to put this together. And we just got to push this more because we have a lot of work to be done.
All right. I think that's it for this panel. Thank you so much.